I need to warn you, I'm not much of a public speaker, so just bear with me on this, and I'm going to have to read most of it as I don't have much of it memorized as well. But my name is David Howard. I'm a follower of Christ, and I'm recovering from alcohol. That's my biggest issue. So I grew up the youngest of 4 kids with very loving parents. My mama was the spiritual leader of our home as we went to church every Sunday with no excuses at all. I accepted Christ at a summer camp when I was 13 years old, and I'm thankful for the foundation that would later save me, leave me where I'm at today. Both of my parents worked when I was growing up, providing what they could with their modest jobs. My brothers and I were crazy about sports pretty much right out of the womb. My dad never had the opportunity to play sports when he was young, as his father had passed when he was young, so he had to go to work right away. So in lieu of him, he played sports through me and my brothers. So he coached. My dad coached us at every sport, and he was, I guess he was like the Bobby Knight of coaching. He was all about discipline and hardships and toughness and all those fun things. He was sort of a perfectionist when it came to sports. There was no middle ground with him. My dad was also an alcoholic. He eventually got sober, but he had a temper when I was growing up. And my brothers and I used to talk about how much I think he enjoyed disciplining us. They always say, it's hard to discipline your own kids, but I think he took some satisfaction in that. But just an example of my dad, when I was 13 years old, I was playing a baseball game, and he was my coach, and I was pitching, and I broke my arm in the middle of the game pitching. But he came out and tried to reset my arm, but they finally noticed the blood trickling out of my jersey. One of the nurses did, so he was even upset about that. So just kind of giving you a little background of how he went about things. God did give me a special gift to play baseball, and while I worked hard to hone my skills, I used to have a large ego about my abilities. I can now look back and know that God gave me those abilities. It's nothing that I did on my own. I played sports throughout all of school, and I was able to play baseball in college as well, something I'll never forget and still think of. I was quickly humbled in college after my first game as a freshman. I pitched against Florida State, and I lasted 2 innings. I quickly realized that my gift wasn't that special after all, so to speak. And after that, I realized I wasn't going to play professionally. I had to figure out who or what I was going to be as a man. I met a girl, we got married, we had a daughter together. At the time, I was still running from my dad's expectations of me, and was still that little boy trying to impress my dad, but couldn't do so. Those expectations brought on my own disappointments in myself, and started my drinking to push down or anesthetize those emotions. But the crazy thing about it all is that was all internal. My dad loved me, was proud of me as an adult. There was never any discouragement or anything like that, but it was just my expectations of what I thought about him. So that kind of started the whole spiral for me. My drinking spiraled out of control, and we ended up getting divorced, and I take the blame for that. One thing I could always do, though, is work, and I always liked working, and I still do, and in some sort of weird way, it's like a competition. It's kind of like a sports again for me. So, but I had many very good jobs, but inside I still wasn't fulfilled, and I was still covering up all those feelings, I'll say it that way. After another failed marriage, I felt empty and bankrupt inside, and my drinking was just getting worse. At that juncture in my life, I was managing a location for a pretty large company and worked with a woman for a few years in a strictly professional capacity. I'd heard that she was getting divorced, and I'd always enjoyed our working relationship. We started dating. I realized I had feelings for her that I'd never had before for another woman. I forged ahead anyway, and I knew that if she found about my secret, my drinking, that it would all be over. And she didn't take her too long to figure out that I was an alcoholic. So she did give me an ultimatum to stop drinking or it's over. I loved her like no one I'd ever loved before. It was completely different. I was head over heels. And for the first time in my life, I was willing to do something about my drinking. I was ready to take a step. But it wasn't going to be a hard step. It was going to be my step. So what I did at that point was I went to a doctor and got prescribed Antabuse. So if I drank, I would throw up. Easy, soft way. I lasted for a couple of weeks. And then I could figure out that if I timed the Antabuse right, and the alcohol right, and all the other stuff, I'd just mildly throw up. But that wasn't working, and I knew it. So then I started in AA. I knew I had to do something for myself and also for that relationship that I had. I stayed sober for 15 years after I entered AA. And things went really good for a while, except I have an ism in me. Can be alcoholism. I like throw myself at things. So after a short period of time of sobriety, I'd always enjoyed sports and all that. But so I went in, started running, started biking, and I started swimming, and I started doing Ironmans and started all this other stuff. And I had this wife and these 4 kids at home, and I was totally neglecting my responsibilities, you know. But I look back on that and not very proud of that, I'll say that. I still have that in me, though, that I can go in too deep on any one thing in my life. I still do that all the time. So after that, I stopped attending meetings. My relationship with Christ and my family at that point were the most important. And during this time, I also started a business. My wife and I started a business, and it flourished, and it went well, and it went really well. Then I started another business, and it flourished, and it went really well. So I'm not going to AA, I'm not doing anything, but I'm looking at myself, and I'm proud of myself about like what I've accomplished. Look at what I've done. And I'm neglecting my wife this whole time. But my thought was that as long as I provide everything that you want or need, then things are good. But it wasn't that it wasn't about material things or anything else. She wanted a relationship, you know. So the lines got blurred for me. About all I can say about that. I really struggled with me. Ended up finding out that my wife had an affair. And when I say it rocked me, it rocked me. So instead of dealing with it, the first thing I did after 15 years of sobriety is go right back to the bottle, first thing. And I wasn't half pregnant about it. I mean, I went full bore on this thing. And I was just trying to cram those feelings and mash them down and get rid of them. But they just were bubbling and they were coming up and they would percolate. And the only thing I could do at that time was just drink and then drink more and then drink more and then just spiraling out of control. So my wife suggested that we go to a counseling group over in Charlotte. It's a big church over there, but they have a program called Re-Engage or Beautiful Marriages. tell everybody about it. It's a great program for men and women, for married couples to come back together. But we went in this group and we like bared our souls with 8 other couples in this group, and we started figuring out, I felt like I was the lone wolf out there, but I started after listening to everybody else in this group that we all got baggage. We all got stuff. And it was just like, okay, it made me feel better. The good thing about that is that, let me kind of back up a little bit. First of all, it was a 26-week commitment. My level of commitment to her at the time was, down here. And I was like, you want me to go with you for 26 weeks over to Charlotte once a week and sit around with a bunch of other people that I don't know? But, I couldn't have been any more negative about the whole thing, and I was. But it strengthened us. We were able to communicate again. We were at least able to talk when I was sober. I'm still drinking. So that hurt, going through all of that. One of the couples in that group invited us over to dinner one night, and we're over there, and I'd shared with everybody about, my alcoholism or drinking or whatever. So we're over with this other couple, we're having dinner with them, and the guy goes, you ever heard of this thing called Celebrate Recovery? And I was like, I've seen the signs or whatever, like, yeah. He goes, you got to check it out. He goes, you might have some success with that. And during that time, I was back in AA, still drinking, but the AA that I went to 16 years prior compared to the AA I went through today was way different. The AA back then was tough and focused, and they were hard on you. They would yell, scream at you if you messed up or whatever. And this time I went back, and it was like everybody was just nice. Oh, you'll get over it. Like, I need somebody to kind of be rigid with me, to be tough. I enjoy, that's something I kind of feed off of. So that wasn't working. So the buddy suggested Celebrate Recovery. So I'm still drinking, still just like pondering on it, like I don't know how that could be different or whatever, But so I was scrolling one night, and I see this thing about Celebrate Recovery at this church. And it's by a guy that I knew prior, Roger Goforth. We had went to church together at another church years ago. So I was thinking, well, at least I know somebody, at least Roger would be there. And I was like, okay, I can probably do this, So I figured, what have I got to lose? At this point in my life, I'm contemplating suicide. I'm at a low, like I don't see a way out of it, so to speak. But so anyways, I came to a meeting. It was good. It was completely different. It was a meet. I went, the first meeting, I was almost in shock because just like tonight, somebody opened up with prayer, and then the first thing he did was sing 2 songs, and it kind of set a tone for me. But the thing it did for me was get me, out of my own head, out of my problems, and focus on the only one that can deliver me, So I knew, okay, this might work out, but I was still struggling. So there was a much smaller group than it is here now, but there was a gentleman, and he just came up a few minutes ago, Troy. And I went to him and I said, hey man, I'm down. I'm out. I don't see any hope, And he goes, yeah, I can kind of see that. So he goes, why don't we get together like once a week for an hour? He goes, not during a meeting or anything else. He goes, but I'll meet you over here at a building. He goes, and we'll just sit and chat for an hour. I was like, I don't know if that'll help or not, but got nothing better to do, better than drinking. But he didn't say anything that was like earth-shattering, but he reminded me of me and the things that I have to be grateful for. I still had my wife. I still had my kids. I still had my business. I still had a lot of things going for me. I still had friends. I still had relationships. I hadn't lost everything, even though in my own self-pity, I felt like I had lost everything. So slowly, after him reminding me and us meeting for a good bit, I started to build like some confidence, like, hey, maybe I can kind of find myself back again. And I did. And it didn't happen overnight. And then I jumped into a step study, and that's when the healing started for me. And if you haven't been through a step study, I encourage you to do so. They're not fun. You got to dig, you got to peel away that onion, you got to find out a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things I learned, a lot of things I didn't like about myself, but I knew now why I was doing those things, and I was still just this little scared boy, 58 years old, and his dad's, trying to let my dad down. But now I had a way of getting some skills. But through it all, the biggest thing that happened was my relationship with my Heavenly Father was restored. And He came back and said, I accept you as you are. And for a while, I struggled with that. Like, man, I don't deserve it. None of us do. But if He's willing to die on the cross, I don't think there's anything that I have ever done or ever could do that He wouldn't accept me back in His fold again, And that was the biggest thing for me. And I finally realized that. I got 8 pages of notes, and I'm on page 2, and I haven't read anything. But the thing that started to happen was, again, I was out of me. It was out of myself. And I looked around, and I saw my wife for the person that she is, the person I fell in love with, and my kids, and how great and how beautiful they are, and how much I've missed a couple of years of helping them develop into the adults and people that they could be. And this group is what kind of pulled it in for me, like it gave me that step back that I could do this. And it hasn't been easy. Sometimes it hasn't been very fun, to be quite honest with you, but I stand before you today like completely changed, like I can hold my head up and I can tell people how much I love my wife, how much I care for her, my kids, and my business, and all the things that's happened to me. And I have so much to be grateful for. And in these step studies, you're in with just women and just men, just these separate groups. But you come into these relationships and you get to know these other people. And I still today feel like I don't give much to the group that I was in, that I feel like I kind of took more than I ever gave, But I have friends now called Mike, called Eugene, called Stephen, called Thomas, And I know that if I needed anything from them, they'd drop it in a heartbeat and come help me. And I hope they know I would do the same for them. Through my life, I've had a lot. I'm a small man as far as I'm a very simple guy. Sports, work, family, Christ. Pretty much it. I'm not a very deep, well-educated guy, I'll say it that way. But through my life and my career, I've had a lot of good mentors, a lot of really good coaches that have pushed love into me and expressed words, and some of them at the time I never had a willy-nilly idea what they were even talking about. But I've wrote some of those expressions down, and just to give you like a little peek into my history. So I just wanted to share a couple of those with you as well. But the first one is you have to lose to learn how to win. I was 13 years old. I didn't have any idea what that said. When my dad told me that, I didn't. You gotta lose to win. What the heck's that mean? 6 years later, I was in a baseball game down in Florida. Coach comes pulling me out of the game. Guess what he said? You gotta learn how to lose and learn how to win, Okay. So, but And all I'm saying is that just learn from your mistakes and file it away for future use. I've learned so much from the CR STEP studies, and those have been so impactful for me. I can't say enough about that. So another one is can't have a comeback without a setback. So don't let a temporary situation become permanent in your life. Don't settle. Go after your dreams. Fulfill whatever is still out there for you in your life, no matter your age. Another big one for me is do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it. Just work hard in all areas of your life, especially personal development, not just the easy stuff or things that come natural to you, but go peel away that onion and figure out who you are so you can be the best father, just the best man, best woman that you can, the best husband, best wife, whatever it is, best employee that you can be for each and every one of them. And it's not where you start, but it's where you finish. That's so important in life. That's not just a sports analogy, that's a life analogy. In golf, there are 18 holes. There's a front nine and a back nine. I'm definitely on the back nine of life. There's no doubt about that. I just don't know exactly what hole I'm on. I might be on 10, I might be on 18. I don't know that. But just don't live a life with regrets. Maybe you have something you haven't accomplished that you wish you had. Don't let that stop you. Maybe it's you need to go back to college or get involved in a step study or learn to play an instrument or fall in love with your spouse again or learn a new skill, but don't stop learning. Don't stop being a student in life. Keep moving forward and be grateful that God has allowed you to wake up and enjoy his masterpiece, which is each and every one of you. F. Scott Fitzgerald says this: it's never too late, or in my case, or too early, to be whoever you want to be. There's no limit. Start whenever you want. You can change or stay the same. There are no rules to this thing. We can make it the best of it or the worst of it. I hope you make the best of it. I hope you see things that startle you. I hope you feel things you've never felt before. I hope you meet people who have different points of view. I hope you live a life that you're proud of. And if you're not, I hope you have the courage to start over again. You may not be able to throw a baseball at 90 miles an hour. Neither can I anymore. But we all have a special talent or skill that was gifted to us by God. Go find it and use it, and don't stop reaching for the stars. Be the person that God created you to be. One of the main things I've learned in this life is that I can no longer focus on outcomes. I have been an outcome-focused person since I was 5 years old, and I have no control over them, none. But I can focus on people and relationships. And those are what's most important. Everyone is hurting, and we can be the listening ear that changes someone's life forever. I hope you are or you become that person. There's a lot I can't do, but I can share my life stories and God's grace with others just the same ways that each and every one of you can. So thank you very much for your time.